SBA EIDL loan increase versus merchant cash advance alternative up to 2 million, 5 million, incredibly fast funding, same day, instant approval without collateral, no hard credit checks. Bad credit is acceptable, and get this, low documentation. I'm going to be going into all of this and so much more. But before that, my name is Michael with Viral Funding Solutions. I'm an expert business loan broker who's been helping out a lot of businesses from all backgrounds and industries navigate their lending options offline as well as online and where to turn to, giving them a roadmap on how to achieve this and so much more. Now, I'm coming out with a segment on this. The other day, I released content on the SBA EIDL loan versus an unsecured term loan of 1 to 2 years usually is the sweet spot without collateral. And then I also went into how you can get it extended even more with the secured term loan option and perhaps some of those SBA 7As. So I'm going to link you to that down below in this description that you'll see. And you can check that out once this video is over. And if you stick with me until the very end, I'm also going to be uncovering the #1 mistake most business owners make when thinking, hey, I should get the lowest interest rates, and why it isn't all about that. So stick with me until the end to find out what that is. Now, let me jump into things. So the EIDL loan you have right here currently is unavailable, maxed out to its capacity of how many people they can accept at this time, people still being processed, people stuck in the queue, not receiving anything. And that could change perhaps maybe later down the road, but at the time of me making this video, that is how it is. So if you're asking, how can I go start an application? You cannot. Trying to receive your initial, your increase, your reconsideration, all this. I've come out with a lot of content on the EIDL that I'll try to link you to down below if you'd like to see all of that, as well as the PPP, employee retention tax credits, grants, and so forth. I'll try to leave that down below. So it's unavailable at this time, but what does that have to do with the merchant cash advance when we're talking about similarities? So in a sense, you're getting a lump sum here, and you're also getting a lump sum with this merchant cash advance product, which the merchant cash advance is where you're selling a future revenue at a discounted price to the merchant or the lender. So what's happening is, let's say it's predicted upon cash flow, revenue based. Okay, and so we're looking at cash flow, ACH deposits, credit card statements, debit card statements, etc. And a merchant cash advance is where, let's say one day you have a low amount of sales, then less gets taken out of your account that day. But if you have a day where you make higher amount of sales, then a higher amount gets taken out. And there could be a fixed percentage or it can be variable depending on those sales. And then there are some that are, like I said, fixed, where you know what's getting taken out of your account on a daily, usually weekly repayment. It's not monthly. So there's the difference with the EIDL loan and the merchant cash advance, is that it's not this monthly restructure. It is this usually daily and weekly. And reason being is because a lot of people will end up in defaults, ending up going into collections. And I see it time and time again. Till this day, I still see it, even when I educate people on it, the understanding of what they're getting themselves into and so forth. And that's not a knockdown to it. It's a knockdown more so to perhaps you were misled or you weren't given this information properly. Probably a lot of people try to scare you away from them. And it also has to do with your business's financial and organizational structure, understanding your bookkeeping, whether you do that or you outsource it to someone else. And understanding, more importantly, in today's market, is you have to stay on top of that, especially when we're talking about the current economic state, price elasticity, opportunity cost, these monopolies in the competitive marketplace space, excuse me, and place. And I took micro and macroeconomics some time ago, a long time ago. But that, and you also have to know the demand and supply, what's happening with that world, and what you can currently get access to within supplies and demands. So with that being said, you have the merchant cash advance, usually operating daily, weekly, the SBA usually on a monthly repayment. Both are lump sums, except this isn't government funding over here with the merchant cash advance. This is through private lenders. So the lenders are taking like 100% of the risk. They're not asking you for collateral. They're not asking you to supply a year's worth of tax statements, 2 to 3 years of personal business tax returns, a business plan, year-to-date financials, profit and loss, and so forth, balance sheets. And there's a lot more AR reports, AP reports, and I can go on and on depending on the service again. but that's not what's being asked for over here. All you usually will need are about 3 months of bank statements. It could be 3 months of credit card statements if it's a traditional merchant cash advance. If it's a hybrid cash advance, which is one that I recommend highly, because we're not just looking at if I didn't say this, a merchant cash advance product is determinant on your credit card transaction. So if you're taking credit card processing or you have credit cards you're taking from customers, that's the way we will evaluate it. And that's what we ask for, those merchant credit card statements as well as the bank statements. But if you go through the hybrid, we don't just look at credit and even debit card transactions. That may be a part of the factor, but we don't need those merchant statements if applicable. We can look at the ACH, checks, cash, anything else being deposited in your business checking account. And then there are personal checking accounts you can use for business, but you'll get a very low amount. That's why I recommend always getting a business checking account that you have under your business name that you're using, you're depositing frequently in there. And that's how then you go and apply for a business loan or a cash advance. So the cash advance, in another sense, now that we're there, it's not technically a loan like the SBA EIDL loan. This is a cash advance against your future receivables, what you're making in your future revenue you're paying back. All right. And then you have the terms. So you will understand how much time you have, how much funding do I need, how much time will I need for it is another question you should be asking yourself. Instead of saying, well, I need 100,000. Well, how much time do you need? I just would like 20 years, but does it make sense to give you the 20 years for what the amount you're asking for and what you need these funds for? No, you should have a strategic use. And that's my next point. The differences that I see with the SBA EIDL loan and the merchant cash advance first, before I get too ahead, is COVID relief. That's what a lot of people are using it for. Not primarily for growth or expansion, but hey, I'm just trying to survive, stay up afloat. We had to partially shut down fully, or where supply chain issues are happening and business operational expenses. I need to just keep running, staying up afloat, this is blah, 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 all this, right? And then it could be a secondary use there. But the merchant cash advance, yes, you could in a way use it the same for business operations, for staying up afloat, but it should primarily be used for fueling your business's growth and expansion, your scaling, etc. And the reason I say that is because they're usually a medium to higher rate. We calculate them on what's called a factor rate, or a total payback you may have heard of, between 1.19 and about 1.7 or 1.69. So you can look at that and say that's about 19% to about 70%. And some of these products can go even higher into like the 19 to about 200% or so. And those are not always common, but they will happen if you have such a high risk. But usually it's 19 to 70%. And the higher the risk you have, meaning your details don't look good, you have your time in business, your FICO, revenue, industry, etc. We look even deeper into things like your average daily bank balance. If you have a minimum, you say you're generating 50,000 in deposits, and your revenue is actually 40,000, because there could be a difference there, but you're only depositing 1,000, or your average daily bank balance is 1,000. I'm like, what's happening here? And so we don't give you a huge amount. We can't afford to give you more in a repayment if you can't afford to have a better average daily bank balance. So those numbers have to align. And I'm not saying that aggressively. It's just I want you to have an understanding that I'm here and I'm going to care about you as a person first. Business comes second. In fact, if you need help getting business funding, down below in the description, I'm going to leave for you a business loan questionnaire you can fill out in less than 30 seconds, literally, if you have everything. It did not take you any much longer than that. And what I'll do is then I'll evaluate it, I'll analyze it, and see what your best funding option and options are, and give you a thorough breakdown from qualifications all the way down to the numbers, the conclusion on what I would do. And even if you don't qualify for something, I'll show you. And so you'll see something different. You might have a roadmap where you say, I get a merchant cash advance, and then I can work on my business credit. And this is how I can get into this credit card stacking program. So all the meantime, I'm doing these 3 different things, getting access to these business credit cards with these limits that may not be enough, or they are, but I need something else because of the interest, or because I don't want to accumulate more, etc. I'm going to take care of you first as a human being personally, and then second on a business. So you're not a number to me at all, like these other companies treat you, and it's not a good way to look at it. So the growth and expansion factor comes in, and medium to higher rates, lower rates on this side with the SBA EIDL loan. What you can use the funding for, it's a bit different. Again, like I said, growth and expansion. You can use it for a multiple amount of purposes over here with the merchant cash advance. Maybe you want to purchase a set of vehicles or just one specific piece of equipment, and you don't want to go through the equipment leasing route. Although that's what I would recommend if you're going that direction. That's what it's built for. but I can understand if you have enough, you want to use and inject it with a lump sum. That's how you can do it. The term duration, 3 to about 12 months. Oh, before, let me back up in the amount of funds, how you can use these funds. And it's self-explanatory when I said you can use it for just about anything. So you can use it for funding multiple projects. Maybe you're trying, in some merchant cash advances give you the flexibility to go purchase an existing business. Not all of them will. Not all merchant cash advances will allow like a real estate investor to use it to flip a home, fix and flips, rehab sometimes, but that there's a different route to go into. And there are different lenders for those cases that will allow it. And most of the times you'll have to go through the traditional real estate way. And then we can combine things like perhaps a personal loan if you're in the rehab stages, maybe a line of credit on top with another product that we can get you the most amount of funding. And then you can always come back and receive more if that's not the case or it is. So that's what the expectations are. The rates, you can see 30 years, generally speaking, 3 to 12 months is the time frame for merchant cash advance. Reason being is that's just how these work. The lender's taking a huge risk. You'll see some companies out there, perhaps brokerages and others, that will market themselves and say, we give you 4 to 24 months or 3 to 18 months. And once you get into the 12 to about 24 month or so frame, that's when you're talking about a term loan, an intermediate or a medium term loan, 1 to 2 years. You can get underneath the merchant cash advance product, and or like I said, there's the unsecured term loan, but you have to have higher details. And the cash advance may seem more attractive to you. They may have a different bit of the underwriting process than the unsecured term loan. But 3 to 12 months, about 30 years here, a huge difference. But the number one thing, like I said earlier, isn't about getting always the longest term and the lowest repayment. It's understanding how am I going to be using these funds strategically. So somebody who gets an EIDL loan needs that amount of time to recover. And you might be using it for other purposes as well, but you don't really truly get the idea in the sense of urgency, in the sense of appreciation that, hey, I understand my business very well. All I need is 30,000 for the next 8 months. Can I qualify for that? And if I qualified for 6 months and I only got 30,000 or 20,000, then I can do what I can get. I can do with that, and then I can take it, come back, renew, get more funds, increase the amount of funding. Maybe we get you 30,000 next time, and then we get you to 7 or 8 months where you wanted to, get you an extra 2 months, drop the rates. Instead of 38%, maybe now you're at 35% or so. That's the way to look at this and building a relationship with the lender. So don't be scared when somebody else talks about merchant cash advances. It's different per person. You may qualify for something more that may make more sense to you, and it may not. We'll have a lot of people right now who can qualify for SBA loans, but they go, hey, I know I need 80,000. I don't need 200,000 or something. I need 80,000. How can I get it faster without supplying all this documentation? I don't want to go through the banks doing it this way. And that's what I would recommend you do, is go through your bank first, because I get a lot of people that come through me and I'll ask them, can you qualify through your bank? Yeah, I could if I could. And then they want to explore this option. And I tell them, if you're going to go down this route, be patient with me if I need to collect all this information for an SBA loan. And the SBA loans, as attractive as they may be, the 7A loan, and I have content on that, I'll leave you two down below, doesn't always necessarily mean it's the most attractive and best solution for you. And a lot of people will come to me and they say, well, I was happy that I took that cash advance for 8 months where I just needed 40,000 and I had a seasonal thing, and it kept going and going and producing more ROI in the short term and even in the long term. So whatever you use, you have to ask yourself, is this going to help me produce something in my short term and or in the long term? And I say and or because if you start short, it could evolve into something long term, depending on if you use it all within the first time you receive funds, or you can concurrently keep coming back for more. And if you reverse engineer that process and we think about, you start with something long term, maybe had 18 months. Next time you come around, you may want that again, or you may say, hey, all I need is 12 months. Hey, just give me 8 months. Or something like that, and we can adjust. We can try to help you in the best way possible. So I believe I've covered just about every topic. I know I could go more specific into each and every one of these. That's why I left content separately on the merchant cash advance, as well as the SBA EIDL loan, unsecured term loans, SBA 7A, hybrid SBA loan options, where we can evaluate you for an unsecured term loan, a line of credit, and or a cash advance in the meantime while you're getting approved for an SBA 7A loan, which is one of the most attractive solutions. That's one I would recommend. But you have to have the qualifications. And again, they don't always make the most sense. And it's more credit-based when you're talking about other SBA 7A, 504. So you have to have at least a 660, if not 680 is the minimum that I would say, going that and above. Usually you want to have more than the minimum. And your credit reports need to look good, not too high on debt to income ratio, keeping that utilization. When we're talking debt to income, lower than 43% usually. Credit utilization, self-explanatory, what you need to be at in that range, how you're using your credit cards, and then minimal inquiries, and more on your reports that don't show late payments and just stuff that maybe has to be disputed that's not helping you. And then you have to show profits, at least 10%, if not 15 to 20%. And there's more on the credit side and so forth that we have to look at, especially like I've had people recently who've been declined because perhaps you're already on a monthly repayment. And it doesn't have to be self-reflected on the EIDL loan. If you have an EIDL loan and you're trying to get an SBA 7A loan, it could still work. They're usually not congruent with one another in that sense. They're a bit different programs, although they are SBA related. But this is COVID relief, and this is what usually you should be using for growth and expansion, is what the SBA 7A wants to see. Is, are you using this for significant growth and expansion? Why should we give you the 5 to 25? Usually it's 2 to 7 year, 5 to 7 years with working capital, which you usually get, up to 10 years in some cases, yes. And 10 and beyond usually could be your equipment, and then up to 25 years usually can be the real estate side. So take that into the account and understand that's how these work. Don't believe I've missed much. Yes, merchant cash advance, highly revenue based. Those merchant statements, there's a hybrid where we don't have to just look at credit card. You have to be accepting credit card transactions in your business, or debit, excuse me, those two. There are other forms, so I'll tell you to look at that option down below if you'd like to in the description. And that is the majority of everything. Bank statements, huge. Cash advances, so we can determine what your repayability will be, to see in verification of you, understanding how we can deposit the money in there usually is what we'll do. So when we're asking for bank verification, we'll have a safe and secure process where then we can go in there with decision logic, is usually the software and the account we use. And it's very safe and secure. And that's what the lender will do to see your account, to make sure everything looks clean, so that way they can also deposit and verify, and they can be able to get their money back. So it's very safe and secure when people go through that process. Let me look here to make sure I haven't missed anything. So yeah, I covered the points, the contrasts, how the time frame, the interest rates, how the funds can be used for these, short-term return on your investment, and it can also lead into a long-term return. So just understand, be strategic about how you use these funds. Don't just look at the interest rates. That's what I want to jump into next. Think about this as, how can I get a better term, longer term, sure, but how can I lower my repayments? Ultimately, the benefit has to exceed your repayments. And if that makes sense, then it makes sense to move forward. Some business owner who's in the restaurant industry, and maybe it's another one similar or a different one, maybe saying, hey, I'm going to open up a new patio set, a gazebo, or I'm going to be doing this, and I'm going to be bringing in an extra 50 people a day, where I'm going to be going from 30,000 a month to about 50,000 a month in the next 3 months. Or I'm going to need a year's worth of time to be able to transition into this building that then will produce to me an ROI where I get more, I hire on more people, more inventory, or a product that I don't know about, but I'm putting on new shelf. Maybe it's about 12 months, and it makes sense, and you have the details to supply that. Without collateral, you can't just get the leverage you want in all cases. You have to start somewhere and build your way up, and that's how you do it over time. So that will conclude everything. Excuse me, it's what happens when you have like cereal in the morning. That will conclude everything from myself in this video. Hopefully you received value out of this. If you did, I'd greatly appreciate it if you gave it a thumbs up, as well as share it with others who you feel will get value, get education out of it. It can be a complete stranger, a friend, or a family member, but you know, at the end of the day, you can rest your head on your pillow knowing that you spread the word and you help people you didn't even know, or friends or family, get the education once and for all, finally, instead of just trying to go from post to post, video to video, just trying to hang up on grants. And that's the only thing you do because that's what you keep seeing, and that's what's appeasing the algorithm. That's what all these people are creating those grants. Not saying that I don't, but that's not what I always focus on. And I focus on giving you the value. And since I work with the best lenders, underwriters, and the best network, in-house, out-house, etc., I will be able to help you along the way in each step of the process, figuring out what the best service is. Not only that, but what can you do thereafter in the meantime? What can you do then after that option? If this one works out best, what can we then transition to, or what we can stick with after you come back and renew, add-on funds are available, and so forth. So that's what you know about the merchant cash advance product in a nutshell. And I know there's a bit of information. And if you want to see that more specifically, what the best funding programs are for you, what I recommend as my #1 recommended place to go to, the unsecured term loan option, and what you need to have with that. And you got to understand the SBA EIDL loan. In a nutshell, government-related private lenders, the risk assessed with that, and why there's medium to higher rates as opposed to lower over here, longer interest or lower interest, longer terms, medium to higher rates with a 3 to 12 month frame usually, or you can see 3 to 24 months with those cash advance products, and you start getting this immediate term loan. So that's what I'm going to leave it at. I know I can go even longer in this. I can even go more in depth on fluctuations in revenue, but consistency definitely helps with merchant cash advances, and the number of deposits per month, at least 3 and above, varies per lender. And the underwriting guidelines are not as scrutinizing as it is with another SBA 7A loan, et cetera, for those as an example. And you can get in and out very fast. You can get up to 25K, same day, instant approval, with a lesser than appetizing or appealing FICO, some 1 to 2 days, as much as a week, depending on your file and what we have to look at. So make sure, and you should know this too. I'm going to leave you with this thought, or I'm going to leave you with this. Because a lot of these applications are online now. We're in a digital age. We're working with fintech companies. Sometimes you work with multiple offers we can get you, which is what I recommend. And then there are direct lenders where we can look at one. I recommend going through a lot. We're not just shooting your information and hurting your credit. It's a soft pull with merchant cash advances. Some SBA other options can be, like 7As can be a hard pull. So think about that and the amount of documentation necessary. But we're not using this information against you and doing anything wrong with it. But you'll see personal guarantees, and that's just a way for the lender to say, hey, if you default on this, you knew what you were getting yourself into, we can go and get your personal assets. And that's just common. That's what you're going to see, a personal guarantee of. So just get used to the idea of it and get used to going in that direction, unless you're going the back end route with credit cards, and even those require personal guarantees, business credit cards to a point, and then some of these programs to a point, maybe not a personal guarantee. But we all begin somewhere, and you have to understand your place in the market and what's happening and what's shifting, and just be responsible. If you know you're making those repayments, so what's the big deal? Just your understanding of that. I can take these, and I know I've been in your position before because I've been there, done that. I have multiple businesses that I run on top of this one, and I remember getting started initially with nothing in the accounts being generated in my business, and trying to figure out what I could do in 6 months and not even being profitable, not even generating anything substantial, not even generating 1,000 in 6 months, and even above to about a year in what I was doing. I shifted my thought process and my strategy in who I was connecting with, and how I went all this alone in some cases. I needed the proper guidance to finally start getting me the revenue where I was getting 1,000, 3,000, 5,000, 10. It was going up and above, and I won't disclose. I don't want to get into what am I doing, all that. But just understand, a lot of this is online application now. There could be a PDF version alongside it, or it's just online now, where you'll be asked to submit those 3 months of bank statements, 3 to 6 months, a voided check, and copy of your driver's license, and that's about it. And it's very safe and secure. And we can see it on our back end, or you can send it to me and I can send it over to the lender, the team, and that way we can get started. There'll be moments I'll ask for it, moments where I don't need to. So hopefully you got value out of this. Again, if you haven't subscribed, I would really appreciate it if you did, and click that bell notification icon so you do not miss any future videos I will be coming out with. And again, for any questions, comments, or concerns, please feel free to voice them in the comments. Be careful. There may be people who spam in the comment section, doing things like Cardigram, telling, those people who are trying to get you somewhere else. I'm not associated with them. Be careful. There will be legitimate people. There will be those people who are not, that appear to be, but they are not. So be careful. And for all information, please look in the description for the merchant cash advance, EIDL, the unsecured term loan, and so much more. That is it for now. Talk to you soon.